Welcome to the Mountain Gardener with Ken Lane. Gardening in the mountains is different. Listen to Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts guaranteed to make your gardens more beautiful than ever this year. Now for better advice that works locally, welcome your host, Ken Lane.
And welcome. This is the season for, I think, planting. So we've always heard, or your grandparents heard, fall is for planting, time to plant, best time to plant trees, fruit trees. Well, why is that? The reason is plants put on tremendous amount of root growth now through the end of the year, through just past Thanksgiving, sometime into December. Eventually the soils cool down enough where they stop growing, but you can literally put on a foot and a half of growth of roots underground just by putting plants in now. And then what you get from that is next spring you get tremendous more. So the top growth or the new let's say branches or flowers, or those mirror the root growth. So if you've got a lot more roots, you're going to get better fruit, better elongation of pine trees or spruce, or better top. You're going to get more growth out of that. Perennials, this is really the only time you're going to find phlox. Only time you're going to find asters and mums and echinaceas and gaillardias. This is the time for those late summer, fall type of perennial flowers. And so they'll bloom like crazy through a hard freeze, so into November. And then they'll start to hibernate. So the mums, I'll actually leave them up because I think they're beautiful, even when they've turned to that straw color. So the top growth has died back. You can see where the old spent flowers were. I think the form is beautiful. So I keep them in the gardens. Eventually they start to, the flower petals start to fly off and they get in the hot tub. I'm going, okay, that's enough. You're getting cut back to the ground and you're out of here. Or they start to lay down. So your ornamental grasses, most of those are perennials. That is, they will come back for years to come. I'll keep those up until the snow and by January, they're starting to look kind of beat up. And they hibernate. They're still alive underground. They're resting underground. Many plants need this rest period to be able to perform well, or to recuperate, to rejuvenate their energies so they can come back with another bloom cycle. So it takes a lot of energy to form crepe myrtles, roses sharons. Even roses need a rest period so they can form that next spring's growth. Fruit trees, they need a rest period. Even evergreens, they need time to form those new buttons in winter so they can elongate. And they're going to put a foot and a half, say 2 feet of new growth on an Austrian pine. It's a very fast growing pine tree. It's the fastest growing of the hardy pine trees from the mountains of Arizona. Austrian pine, I think they're even tougher than ponderosa pine, much faster growing than pinyon pines. So they need a rest period to form that new buds, rethink through, how am I going to do this? And then come April, they just go whoosh, and they put on 2 feet of growth over the entire structure of this plant. It takes a lot of energy. So they have this real fast, aggressive growth cycle, and then they need to rest. So much like a marathon runner, they can run for miles, and then they need to, but it's not infinite. They need time to recuperate. So plants are very much like that. So the beauty of planting now, you get those roots underneath you, and then you get next spring, it will mirror that root growth from this last fall. So it's a tremendous time to be planting. I think it's the best time to be planting fall colored trees. So ash and maples and aspens and birch and all these fall colored plants. The main reason too is because it's such a good time, garden centers bulk up on their selection, their sizes of these trees, so you get a better choice. You not only get the benefit of planting, getting the roots, but you get a better selection. And so the prices seem to be holding about where they were. What happens is the farm went up a little bit in price, but the shipping cost to get them here is a little less. So it ends up the landed price, it's about the same as last year. So there's not that inflation stuff that we're seeing. Like, it's strange how not everything is going up, but some things are going up a lot. Uh, Not so much the things that need to be shipped, trees, shrubs, that kind of seem to be stabilizing, which is good. I'm thankful. So anyway, it's a good time. When you are planting, please, for the love of gardening, do not just open up a hole and chuck it in the ground. We mentioned composting, the benefit of composting, how some of your soil is dead. Literally, the contractor scraped off a little bit of topsoil and the worms, a few mycorrhizal colonies that were there, and some of you have dead soil. Literally, there's nothing living in the soil. You're going to need to dig a hole for that plant that is the same depth as the bucket, as the root size, and 3 times the width. This is important. Roots grow sideways, especially on trees. The bigger they are, the more sideways they go, very aggressively. And so your big natives, they can have hundreds of feet of roots in every direction, but they're only 3 feet down in the ground. That's because they know the cycle, the water cycle, the nutrients are right below the surface. They're up there. They're trained to look for the water, look for the food. It's going to be right next to the surface. Grab as much as you can. When it does rain, grab it and store it. That's how plants are trained to grow here. And so if you know that's how they're going to grow, just encourage them to grow that way. 3 times the width, same times the depth. For evergreens, so we're coming into the best season for planting spruce, pine, firs, the big, Christmas tree looking things, conifers, things that put a needle on. This is the time to plant those. And so those plants are extremely sensitive to soggy feet. They don't want their feet to be wet all the time. They want to be able to breathe. If they can't breathe, they'll drown. We have what's called root rot or crown rot. So this is where the Phoenix information coming up here to the mountains of Arizona, where conifers grow, can misguide you. So you do not want that tree into a divot. You don't want it below grade. You want it at grade or even a little above. If you're in very heavy clay soil, a little above is even better. That Coyote Springs, Paquito Valley, Cordes Junction, Dewey, Humboldt, that whole area is very hard clay and caliche layers. It's hard. This is a hard pan layer that keeps the soil wet. The great thing is you won't have to water as much. The negative is you're very prone to overwatering. Make sure the water those plants go into the evening dry and they can breathe. If they're wet and soggy, they'll tend to drown on you. And it will be late in the monsoon cycle where they seem to a pine tree will just turn brown all of a sudden and drop within a week. Boom, it's just dead like that. That's a sign the roots stayed too wet. So wide hole, same depth, at grade. And when you get all that dirt out of there, anything bigger than a golf ball, screen that stuff out of there. The debris, old roots, none of that's good. You want smaller particles so the water molecules can form around that smaller particle and hydrate the plant, keep it moisture. So if it's big chunks, it heats up in summer and bakes the roots. So if anything bigger than the golf ball, get rid of it. Amend what's left with mulch. Now, for you Midwest folks, you define mulch as wood bark chips. Not that. We're talking composted, dark-colored, mocha-looking material, organics. Blend about 25% or maybe a third of mulch to your native soil. Blend that all together, and that's what you're going to use to backfill around the root ball of that new plant, new tree, new shrub that you're putting in there. Now is the time to plant burning bush. Now's the time to plant nandinas. Now's the time to plant a lot of different evergreens, shrubs and trees. Put that around there and then water it in really well. You're going to sprinkle some all-purpose food because, again, your soil probably has almost no nutrients. You'll need to supplement that. So we make an organic food that just granular, sprinkle around the edges, around the top. Every time water, snow, rain hits that, it's going to release nutrients to that plant. And then you water it in at the very end with root and grow. It's a compost tea we make, but it helps it with transplant shock. It's a game changer. Helps it to form new roots very quickly. So that's how you do it. Mulch, food, root and grow, same depth, 3 times as wide. And that's how you plant a tree, a shrub, a vine up here in the mountains of Arizona. It'll really make a difference in your gardens. So plant now, and that's how you plant it. Be right back with more on The Mountain Gardener right after this.
Whether you're freshening up an existing landscape or starting with a blank slate, the Waters In-Store Garden Consultation is right for anyone.
If you don't know where to start, Waters' personal shopper service allows you to book one-on-one time with an expert without the crowds.
It's easy by phone or through our website. No lines, no waiting.
Purchase a $250 gift card from Waters, and it comes with one-on-one private gardener time.
You're going to love your yard again.
Waters Garden Center in Prescott or watersgardencenter.com.
You're listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, the owner of Waters Garden Center. He can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center, located in Prescott at 1815 Iron Springs Road. Thanks for tuning in to The Mountain Gardener.
If you enjoy this show and would like to hear more, please subscribe to The Mountain Gardener, wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And if you'd like even more garden tips, tricks, and helpful advice, please check out my website at watersgardencenter.com for classes, videos, and more, or my online garden center at top10plants.com. Throughout the week, Lisa and I can be found here at Waters Garden Center in Prescott.